What's up, babes? It's Alex, your black guy here, and this is the SMITE 10.2 patch notes in 9 minutes. As always, this isn't an in-depth review of the patch notes and will be more of a general overview. And if you want a more in-depth review of the notes, then I'd recommend reading the notes yourself or just clicking on a different video. To begin, we'll start off by talking about the new god Martikoras. I hope I pronounced that right, probably didn't. Before going into his passive, his basic attacks are a little bit different. His basic attacks will deal 90% damage of a normal basic attack, but will apply Venom, which will do more damage over time. Upon consecutive successful auto attacks, this Venom will continue to deal more damage. His passive is Monstrosity, where he is able to gain stacks by hitting basic attacks and abilities on minions or gods, and once he hits max stacks, he will gain a temporary attack speed buff, but he will also get a permanent stack of 1% lifesteal and 1% ability lifesteal. This can stack up to 30 times. His first ability, Acid Rain, fires a, line of acid rain. It does initial damage, slows, and leaves behind a toxic trail that does additional damage for enemies that are inside of it. His second ability, Poisoned Barb, is very similar to Chernobog 1. He fires a stinger that either stops on the ground or sticks on the first enemy god hit. It does initial damage, but he can also explode it by hitting him with a basic attack or ability. This explosion will deal extra damage and root the god that is holding the stinger. This ability also reduces enemy healing by 50%. His third ability finally allows ADC mains to touch grass. He creates a small patch of grass where he and allies can hide inside. Upon exiting this grass, the Martikoras gains movement speed. His basic attacks from stealth gain 10% additional basic attack damage up front and also apply 8 stacks of Venom. Enemies can reveal anyone hidden inside the grass by putting a ward inside of it or walking in it themselves. And finally, his ultimate, Death from Above, is similar to Freya ult. Martikoras becomes CC immune and untargetable as he goes into the air and automatically shoots down 12 bursts of damaging toxins. These toxins deal damage and also reduce physical protections. Next, we can talk about the skins. As with every new god, the Martikoras is receiving some mastery skins, as well as Ascended Martikoras. He is also receiving Imperious Martikoras. I'm probably pronouncing this wrong and somebody somewhere is mad at me. We are also getting Gilded Glory Ishtar, Bumblebee Jingwei, and Sir Snooze Kumbhakarna. We are also getting more skins related to the Magic the Gathering crossover, starting with Teferi Kronos, Nicol Bolas Tiamat, Vivian Reed Artemis, the Wandering Emperor Mulan, there's no way I fucked up that pronunciation, and Nissa Ravain Iset. With the 10.2 update, Hi-Rez is introducing the Mythical Market, which is kind of like your own tailored shop with a lot of discounts. There have also been some updates to the Year 10 Viewer Store. There will no longer be a purchasable viewer pass, and the ability to earn double points will no longer exist. Compensate, they have made a few changes. Twitch viewer points have been increased to 2,000 points per drop. Additional viewer points have been added to both the free and premium tracks of battle passes, and additional viewer points will be available via event quests throughout the year. Finally, viewer points will be soft reset for all players in 10.2, and any points above 75,000 will be removed. I don't normally go into bug fixes super in depth, but there was more than usual here that I thought were worth talking about, so I apologize if this section is a bit longer than normal. They fixed an issue where enemy player names are being shown in the pre-selection lobby for count-up queues. They fixed an issue where the fire giant could be auto-attacked outside of the pit range by gods that have longer basic auto-attack range. They fixed an issue where the Order and Chaos fountains had dead zones along the back wall that didn't count as being in fountain to buy items. They fixed an issue where god pets were getting stuck on the Titans, so think like Baba Yaga House, Changa Bunny, Scotty Dog, etc. They fixed an issue where bastions could be moved out of place by certain abilities. They fixed an issue in jungle practice where the fire giant was missing. They fixed an issue with Baba Yaga where her passive will now allow her to stack Prophetic Cloak. For Fenrir, they fixed an issue where his Brutalize was following Surtur through his ultimate ability and Ishtar through her third ability Backflip. With Gilded Arrow, they fixed an issue where it was providing 25 basic attack damage to magical gods instead of the intended 20 damage. For Divine Ruin, they fixed an issue where the passive was dealing physical damage and it will now appropriately do magical damage. Warflag has been re-enabled, and they fixed the issue where the item was double triggering the bonus effect. And for Phalanx, they fix an issue where the passive was affecting pets when it should only have been applied to minions. We can now move on to item balance, starting with Stone of Binding, where the protection debuff has been decreased from 5 plus 1 per level to just 1 per level. Then we move on to Contagion, where the damage has been decreased from 35 to 25 along with a plethora of bug fixes. Then we can move on to Prophetic Cloak, where the internal cooldown to stack it is being decreased from 10 seconds to 8 seconds, but once it's evolved, the physical and magical protections are being decreased from 55 to 40, essentially decreasing the total protections by 30. Then we have Sigil of the Old Guard, which is seeing a decrease in base damage mitigation from 5% to 3%, as well as a decrease in damage mitigation per stack from 4% to 3%. They also decrease the healing per stack from 3% to 1% of your max health. Then we have Berserker Shield, which is seeing a decrease in damage mitigation on the passive effect from 10% to 5%. Then we have the Crusher, which is seeing a decrease in cost, but also a decrease in physical power from 55 to 50, and a decrease in physical power scaling from 40% to 30% on the passive. Lastly, for nerfs, we have Heartseeker, where the bonus damage is being decreased from 3% to 2% when the item owner has lower power. Now we can talk about item buffs, starting with Kin Size, where the attack speed is being increased by 5%, and the bonus damage against high max HP targets from the passive is being increased by 1%. Then we have Bladed Boomerang, which is seeing a decrease in cost by 100 and a 5% increase in attack speed. They also decrease the offset from player of the buff drops to be about 50% closer to the player. Next up we have Chronos Pendant, which is seeing an increase in magical power by 10. Next up we have Brawler's Beat Stick, which is seeing a decrease in cost by 100 and an increase of the base power from the passive of the buff field from 10 to 20. I don't normally talk about tier 1 items, but I think this is significant enough, but the tier 1 version of Cloak is having a cost decrease by 50 gold, and the T2 and T3 item upgrades are going to cost the same, but the costs are being adjusted. Cannoneer's Cuirass is seeing a decrease in cost by 150 gold, Dawnbringer is also seeing a decrease in cost by 200 gold, Absolution is getting 10 more magical protections and 10% more crowd control reduction. And finally, Phalanx is seeing a physical protection buff by 5, and the health it provides is also being increased by 50. Finally, we can talk about God Balance, starting with Ao Kuang, whose third ability is seeing a decrease in magical power scaling by 10%. Then we have Hebo, whose third ability is seeing a decrease in base damage by 10 at all ranks, and as well as a decrease in magical power scaling by 5%. Then we have a Discordia buff, where her second ability will see a decrease in cooldown by 2 seconds at all ranks, and her ultimate is seeing an increase in base damage on the initial hit by 25 at all ranks, and as well as an increase in magical power scaling by 10% on the initial hit. Geb is getting a little bit of love, where they're increasing the base damage of his second ability by 10 at all ranks, and they're also decreasing the cooldown of this ability by 1 second. Tsukiyomi is also seeing a buff, where his first ability on the shuriken damage is seeing an increase in base damage by 10 at all ranks, and the physical power scaling of the dash hits is being increased by 5%. Moving on to Jingwei, her first ability is seeing an increase in tick damage by 5 at all ranks and a decrease in cooldown. It's usually 12 seconds at all ranks, but now it will start at 12 seconds and decrease as you rank it up, ending with 10 seconds. Finally, we have Chernobog, whose second ability is seeing a decrease in mana cost by 10 at all ranks, and his third ability is seeing a decrease in mana cost by 20 at all ranks, as well as a decrease in cooldown. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, if you want a more in-depth description of the patch notes, I would recommend a different video or just reading the patch notes yourself. This has been Black Eye. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
All day, pray them niggas go away. Oh, we sell the clowns around, it look like circus show. This is not the album either, these are just some throwaways. This shit's still so cold when it drop, it's gonna be a motherfucking snow day. Hey, boy, it's good and he knows it.